about way cash crisis works. Talking about Venezuela once again. Systemic important banks. They removed the one factor. Thing on there called monetary awareness.
The next recession.
Recession will be
a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months, but a lot of things about this particular one have not been typical. So
a crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
I go to bed every night, I dream of another recession. If you know what to do, if you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.
Hey there, hope all is well. Back here today with some more RTD news updates. And as you can tell from today, we're going to be talking about the idea that after every bull market, there is a crash. So I came across a visual aid that I think is very telling of where we're currently at now and how, according to history, we can always expect that after the markets peak, there will be a correction, and usually the correction is very uncomfortable. So before I dive more into this visual aid, as always, new to RTD, I want to encourage you to click the subscribe button along with the notification tab to be informed of future updates as well as live streams. Also join me on Twitter, where I share posts throughout the day on various subject matters dealing with our monetary system as well as whatever's happening in the news that I can't get to via video. And last but not least, RTD is on Patreon and I could use your support. So if RTD has been informative to you and helped you in your educational journey, feel free to subscribe and become a member of the community officially and support RTD via a monthly donation of your choice. Other than that, let's dive into today's article. So today I have just one article I want to share with you, but I think it's very telling of how history has always seemed to repeat itself in the idea that whenever there's a continuous increase in the markets, there always is a correction down the line. And so here's a visual aid which I want to share with you. It's called Visualizing the Longest Bull Markets of the Modern Era. And so this visual aid was posted as of yesterday, and it says the current bull run will soon be the longest in modern era. And so that's leading to this post-crisis bull run here, which according to the information shared here, we're about 2 months away from having one of the greatest or one of the longest expansions ever since the Great Expansion that ended in 2000 with, of course, the dot-com collapse. So give you an idea what's going on here, it lists from 1950 every single bull run in the form of the markets ever since 1950. And so here we have the post-war boom, and of course we can tell what happened after that. We had the 60s, and then during that time we had the next one, which is the 70s growth, and then we know what happened during that time frame there with the whole inflation aspect. Then we had the Reagan era that ended in 87, and then we all know what happened with that, Black Monday. And then we had the Great Expansion here, which started in the 90s and it ended in 2000 with the dot-com crash. Then we have the hot alts, which is the whole marking subprime situation that happened and ended, of course, 08-09, and we know how that ended. It is called the Great Recession. And so here we are now post Great Recession, and now we're in this post-crisis bull run, factoring in the new implementation of unprecedented monetary policy, 0% interest rates, astronomical amounts of debt. So if you scroll down a little bit lower, it gives you an idea as to how each bull market started and how it came to an end. And so starting with number 6, it says the hot alts, which was from 02 to 07. It says in the aftermath of the dot-com bubble and the September 11 attacks, the market began its slow recovery. So it shows a little window right here. And then it says record low interest rates fuel an era of easy credit. Much of this money goes into housing, so hence the idea for 60 months or so we had the subprime situation here. And then it says, why did it end? That the Dow Jones peaked at 14,000 points just before the financial crisis, but it's soon to be at 6,600 by March 2009. And so imagine that, 14,000 points down to 6,600. And you can imagine the amount of wealth that disappeared during this crisis here, factoring in everything that came from after that. So a lot of people was hurt by this bubble coming to an end. Then it goes down to the 5th longest expansion, which was during the Reagan era. And so that was about 60 months. And it says Fed Chairman Paul Volcker succeeds in taming inflation, which drops to 3.2% from a punishing 13.5 3 years prior. The area is known for the proliferation of hostile takeovers, leveraged buyouts, and mergers. And it says, how did it end? It says the 80s bull market was punctuated by the largest one-day market crash in history called Black Monday. It says over $500 billion of value evaporated from the Dow in a single day. So we have the hot alts, we know how that ended. We have the Reagan era, we know how that ended. It says the 70s growth. It says in 1974, the bull markets followed the challenges of stagflation and energy crisis in the early 1970s. How did it end? A combination of the Iranian Revolution, the 1979 energy crisis, and the return of double-digit inflation. More discomfort. The post-war boom, so we go back from 1949 to 1956, says the beginning of the baby boom and a time when Europe, recovering from World War II, offered great export potential for American-made products. Hence the idea of the Industrial Revolution that began to take place. That was 86 months during our time frame there. How did it end? It says the Soviet Union launches Sputnik, Eisenhower has a heart attack, and the Hungarian Revolution occurs in 1956. Next one, the Great Expansion versus the post-crisis bull run, number 1 and number 2. So number 1, the Great Expansion, it lasts 114 months prior to the dot-com crash. And here we have the current post-crisis bull run, and it's 112 months. So we're 2 months away from tying the longest bull market run and perhaps exceeding that time frame, give or take, if we are able to make it into the fall. And give you an idea of how this situation happened, it says after a short bull market between 87 crash and the start of the Gulf War, markets started to regain confidence back in 1990. How did it come to an end? And it came to an end because of the dot-com, but it says the Fed raises rates 6 times to try to stifle off inflationary effect of the dot-com bubble. Hence the idea of the manipulating of the interest rates to try to stave off some type of complete collapse, which led us to where we're at now, recovering from 0% interest rates to where we're at that 1.75, 2% interest rates. And so it started in 09, right after the Great Recession, with all that funny money, and it's 112 months long as of today. And it says the S&P continues to hit all-time highs and is just days away from becoming the longest bull market ever. And so if you look at how all these prior bull markets came to an end, it's good to say that there will be no happy ending to the idea that everything that reaches a peak must come back down. So I want to take a minute just to share this visual aid with you, because I think it's very telling of what has happened throughout history. Whenever we reach a bull market peak, there's unfortunately a crash that follows that. And what makes this crash here different than before is the fact that every single crash that followed led to the Federal Reserve being able to drop or increase rates at a point to where it was able to actually gain control somewhat of the financial sectors. But yet with this one here, being that we're close to 2% interest rates, there's not much wiggle room to go below that apart from going negative. And we are saturated with debt like never before, whereas in these prior ones, debt was not as bad as it is now. So you factor in negative rates and possibly another quantitative easing or some type of unprecedented monetary policy that will come after this next correction, it spells trouble all the way around. So other than that, I just want to shine some light on this visual aid here. There's more information down below if you're interested in reading for yourself. But I really just want to give you something to look at, and then I'm also interested in hearing your thoughts on this, especially if you are of the older generation and you were actually able to experience some of these other ones at a point where you financially was impacted by that. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, so feel free to leave a comment down below. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. Look forward to bringing you more news updates in the future.